What is up, everyone? Sean here, and welcome to another episode of the Hawke Talks. Today is going to be a little more of an interesting topic for me to talk about because, first off, this idea did definitely come from the comment section. So thank you very much for the comments or any feedback or anything like that. It definitely helps out, and if you guys want to, suggest more ideas, you can leave them in this comment section below for for any subjects for me to talk about in the future, possibly. So, and funny enough, this game that we're looking at, looking for Fire Emblem Warriors, does have something that we're going to be talking about, but we'll look at we'll talk more into that in the video. So, in this episode, we'll be talking about season passes. What really sparked me to talk about this in the first place was not only the comment section, but one of the more or if not most anticipated fighting games early next year is Dragon Ball FighterZ Z. Not only Dragon Ball FighterZ got the official release date, which is by the end of January. I can't really remember off the top of my head right away, but by the end of January of 2018, so really can't wait for that game. But not only that, but they actually announced a season pass for the game. So a lot of people are kind of rolling their eyes and they're kind of just like, oh boy, it's one of those games again with the season pass. Season passes tend to get this like negative connotation for reasons. They're very good reasons, in my opinion. But for those who are kind of new to season passes or don't know what season passes are, so let's just talk about the basic definition. So, or what my definition of a season pass is. Season passes are basically your incentive to give this amount of money so that you can get a certain amount of content that extends your game's lifespan in a way. So, for example, let's just go to Call of Duty because that's where my first experience of season passes came from, and I think it started from, I believe, Modern Warfare 3. I don't think Modern Warfare 2 has season passes, but I could probably be wrong. But anyways, season passes, they are really there to expand the content that you want to see for whatever game you want. So you have your initial game, and then they'll throw you this, so that way you can get more content from it. That's pretty much like the basic purpose of these season passes, just to see more and get more from the game. Sometimes they are priced from $20 to even upwards to $50 or even $60 for season passes. So yeah, you're paying extra, sure, but you're most likely getting your money's worth for whatever game you want. So that's like the basic purpose of season passes, is just to get more content from it. But a lot of people see it from a very different perspective. So what sometimes happens is games with their initial release have very limited content. Let's just take Battlefront, for example. That's like my most vivid memory of that example. I remember that there was only 4 maps for the biggest online mode, which was, I think it was Conquest or whatever it was called. Whatever biggest online mode was. So it only had, it was very limited. There was very little to do after you pay, whatever it was, $59.99 or whatever. I even got the deluxe version, so you got a little more content in there. So the Han Solo's gun, you get a couple of these. You basically got some weapons earlier over others, just because you put a little more money into it, which is kind of scummy. But there were some other things that came with it too, so I was enticed to getting it. And then the season pass came up, and the season pass had all this stuff. It had so much more maps, it had so much more heroes, it had so much more content, and yet this initial game that you get had so little. So very iffy on what the company did, at least from the EA anyway. Seemed like they pulled a lot out from from the initial game, and then they made this into a bundle, a digital bundle of sorts, and they decided to throw in the price tag, which was $49.99, I believe, for this amount of content. So basically, seems like you're paying for like 2 games, even though it's just 1 game. It's just really really strange. But a lot of people see it as these season passes as the company pulling out this amount of content, and then they throw in the price tag to attempt to try to milk out more money. And they're not wrong. They're not wrong to think of it that way, because some games have done it in the past, and it's just very, very scummy of them to do, and it's just absolutely not a great thing, or not a cool thing to do. So a lot of people think of it as like, now you're paying not only $60, but this amount of money for the season pass. So sometimes you'll be paying for like $80 instead of $60, or rather $120 for some games. I believe Battlefront, excuse me, costed that much anyway, or Battlefield 1 costed that same amount. Call of Duty also cost that same amount with the game and the season pass. So you're basically paying this much more money just for 1 game, and that's how many people see it. And I can definitely see why people see it that way. But I would like to see it as you donating to the developers, giving your money, and you get all this stuff back. So it's kind of like you giving a little more money, but at the same time you still get something out of it. So it's just, I don't know, I definitely feel both sides of it. It can be a very gray line situation for a lot of things. Whether season passes have pulled out content, or it could just be they're done with this game and then they want to throw in a little more later on, but they didn't have enough time to by the release date or whatever, so they have this content laying behind, but they want they're gonna throw in that price tag on it, so that way they can at least alleviate some of the costs that the additional development went into and stuff like that. So I like to see it that way, but sometimes it's kind of obvious, like some games like Battlefront and stuff like that, it's just flat out laziness, or not laziness, but just very scummy. And even companies like Capcom have probably done in the past, especially with Street Fighter Cross Tekken. They had the content locked behind the disc, and you had to get the season pass to open up that content for you to get, but it's in the disc. It's like, so what the hell? Hackers were able to open that lock somehow, and they were able to get the fighters that way. So it was really bad on Capcom's end, and they got the pitchforks and the torches and all that stuff from the consumers and customers and all that stuff. And that shows more of the bad sides of the season passes. But yeah, I mean, not really much else to say other than season passes are going to be around, and they're just going to continue to throw in those price tags on it, and you have to make the choice whether to support that or not. So it sucks. It definitely does. I exactly don't agree with these season passes either, but if it means that it will support support more feature games like these, then what, I'll go ahead and throw in whatever money that they put that price tag on, and I'm just gonna have to kind of just stick with it. But when it comes to games that I really love, I would love to put down more money for it. So that's why I see both good and the bad of season passes. And whenever things are very obvious, then like Battlefront, I'm definitely not gonna put in any more money in there. It's just so little in the initial game, and then you see all this stuff in the season pass, like I wonder what they did in the development, and makes you really question their motives and stuff like that. But You know, it's all up to you. It's really your choice whether these season passes should be around or not, and your wallet is the way to answer with it. So just choose your games carefully, and maybe, you know, other companies will see it as like, you know, hey, maybe we should have our season passes like this, you know. Now here's one last major thing I want to mention about this whole season pass, or even DLC in general, really, especially for fighting games, and especially for shooting games and all this stuff, or just games in general, I should say. You know, if you dig into the history of gaming, especially like back in the 90s or whenever Street Fighter 2 and Mortal Kombat was like the hottest thing, or in their prime, this is absolutely nothing new. It's just a different name. These games always came with different editions, and each edition is fully priced. It's like a, you know, entirely new game, pretty much. That's how they packaged it back in the day, and that's because of how, you know, patches and stuff like that didn't even exist with these old games. Once that game is done, it's pretty much done. Like, even this went all the way up to, I want to say, the GameCube's PS2 era, especially like with Melee and stuff like that. Once, you know, Melee was done, you know, that's the game you have. Like, there's no patches and stuff like that. There's no updates. There's no whatever that we have today. There was no online connectivity when it comes to updating the game itself. So that's what you have. And pretty much, like, you know, back in the day, especially when you're a kid with limited amounts of money, that's the version you're gonna be stuck with. So it sucks to be kind of behind in a way, because, you know, you want the greatest edition for Street Fighter or Mortal Kombat or whatever fighting game or whatever video game you wanted, but you're like stuck between, you know, this expensive newest edition or the cheaper older version of the game. I mean, at least you have the game, but it's not the latest and greatest edition during the time. So you're always in this pickle, struggling to really come up with a really solid choice between the two. And how much you have in your pocket, it's pretty much what you have. So you're just gonna have to stick with it. Really unfortunate, but that's how it was back in the day. So you have to put that into perspective when it comes to these kind of things, and it really winds down to just a matter of how do you feel about this game. Do you want to put more money into it? Then, you know what, go right ahead. You know, you should be careful with your choices, and if you really feel committed to this game, then yeah, you can definitely put more money into it. But if you kind of feel there's something off about this game, like, oh, there's so little behind this game, and it's all locked behind the season pass, just like, you know, Battlefront and stuff like that, it's, you know, it's really up to you. But I will most likely recommend not to get the season pass. But yeah, and seems like these season passes are really, you know, starting to trend across games, and even Nintendo's trying to hop onto that season pass train now with the Switch out. So they're really trying to kind of modernize and get with the times, I guess, with other companies like, you know, EA and Activision and all that stuff. You know, starting with Breath of the Wild. Breath of the Wild has a season pass with the Battle of the Hero, or Battle of the Champions, and blah blah blah. And Fire Emblem, which is the game we're looking at right now, this also has the season pass. It'll come with more characters and all that stuff. And games like this, you know, Fire Emblem, I do love. And it's a Warriors game, and it's a Fire Emblem thrown into one. So, you know, hey, I might go ahead and throw in that money for the season pass. It's only $20, so it's not that bad comparing to other season passes. And yeah, I'm just gonna have to stick with that for now. But yeah, when it comes to Dragon Ball FighterZ, if anyone is curious, I would like to see something from the season pass, and then I'll probably throw in money. But it really depends, because it's the same month as Monster Hunter World. I really want to get that game as well, and Dragon Ball FighterZ is coming out the same month, pretty much. So, oh my god, my wallet is really gonna hate me, especially after the holidays. So, definitely not gonna buy it right away for the season pass. It's definitely just gonna be, you know, one of those things. But I would like to wait on it, and we'll have to see what the game will come, or the season pass will come with for Dragon Ball FighterZ, and I'll make my choice from there. So there's always a choice of waiting for the complete edition of whatever game you're waiting for. I know the Battlefront came out with that kind of edition. Mortal Kombat X came out with that. And I think eventually Street Fighter V will come out with that kind of version. Same with MVCI or Marvel Infinite. But you have to also remember that by the time you get those editions, I don't know how active that community is going to be, or how active that online play is going to be by the time you get it. I mean, I hope it's still up and running by the time you guys. I hope it's still up and running by the time you guys get those complete editions or whatever. But it's most likely not going to be active as much as launch day or launch week or launch month, whatever, or launch or just like the first 6 months or whatever. It's really tough. It's really tough to really commit to these games whenever they come out nowadays, because you have money to consider. You have to consider like whether the game is going to be really good or not, whether you're actually going to like the game or not. Even if the game is good, it's really hard to like know these things for sure, like 100% absolutely. So it's kind of kind of funny. I talked about gambling and stuff like that in the previous video, but it is kind of a gamble in a way. But that's just how it is with consumable products. You just have to put your money into it and find out whether that product is good or not. So that's just how the consumer market works. It's putting your money into it, and you just find out whether it's for you or not. And it's really hard, especially for fighting games. Fighting games always been doing this. They're gonna have some sort of character pass or season pass or different editions and updates and all this stuff. This overloading the initial game, and it is tough to keep up, whether it's either money wise or just mentally wise, and it's just tough. I understand why fighting games don't get the best treatment when it comes to the attention or the hype or stuff like that. It does get hyped up, but whenever the bad things line up, it's just it's really bad. It can get really bad, especially with like Street Fighter Cross Tekken or a couple other fighting games. But it's just, I understand why people don't buy fighting games. It's just not for them. Not only because of they have to be really good at it, but the things around it, the financial commitment that you have to go through, especially with this whole season pass and buying characters and costumes and all these colors and stuff, DLC that you have to put real money into, and this is just something we all have to deal with, throughout this pretty much this decade or century for all we know. But it is something we all have to just deal with for a long time, unfortunately. And I don't agree with it. I don't like it either, but it's just how it is, and you just gonna have to just commit to the games that you really like. And so in the end, season passes is, if you really want more out of this game, there's no shame into putting more money into it. It's really up to you to make that right choice, whether you really want to put it in that money into the season pass or not. Really tell the company whether you really want this game or not to flourish continuously in the future, or see future titles with this same model of season pass and development and all that stuff. And it's really up to you. It's only you can make that choice. Your wallet is what speaks to these companies whether these season passes should be around or not. There are some games that don't have season passes. I mean, I guess Overwatch technically has no season pass, but that has all the loot boxes and stuff like that. Titanfall 2, that's a really good game, and it doesn't even have a season pass. Funny enough, Battlefront 2 technically doesn't have a season pass, but it will have loot boxes, and it's a very scummy one, if I might add that. So, really, I don't know. That's a very gray line on that one. But there are other games that don't have season passes, and they come out still having enough content just to be a game in this modern age. So season passes are definitely not needed. It's just kind of there to whether you want to support the game further or not, you know. And again, I have to emphasize this. I feel it's up to you. You are the only one that can answer to whether this game deserves that season pass from you or not. So that's really all I gotta say for season passes for this episode. Do you have any comments or anything like that about season passes? Leave them down below. If you also have any suggestions, again, leave it down below in the comment section. I'd love to check them out. Love to take note of that for future episodes. And don't forget to hit the like and subscribe and share these videos throughout the internet. It really helps out as always, and I highly appreciate it. So, don't forget to check out all the links in the description box below. It includes my Twitter, my loot crate, excuse me, and my Twitch and all that stuff. You can check them out in the description box below. So, thank you guys so much for tuning in. This has been my opinion or thoughts on season passes for this episode of the Hawke Talks. Thank you guys so much. I'll see you guys in the next video. Sean out.